I'm a guitarist and producer. I've been injured for the past 17 months, and I find myself now in the depths of a creative rut. A well-documented phenomenon experienced by creative people, a period of time where the tap just won't run, regardless of external pressures that demand a creative product. For a long while I felt like I was just existing, following the motions, swimming with the stream. I was on my own this time. There were always other people to lean on in my previous roles as a musician. I composed all the time, but I felt that I needed other people, and so I became very adept at being creative within a specific set of boundaries. Creative restrictions were only present in the form of fulfilling a role as a supplementary creator, someone who adds to an existing canvas or whose visions are brought to life with the help of others. The burden was one to share. Things have changed for me since my injury, but I'm still the creative person I always have been. So I needed to explore methods to manipulate circumstance and break free from the creative rut as an individual, as the sole creative force. First, I had to examine the reasons behind and remedies for a creative blockage. I took to the internet naturally, like any smart individual would, and it listed a few elemental reasons as the causes, which can be broken down into physiological and motivational factors. I realised confronting these factors are easier said than done. You know, as a perfectionist, I'm aware of my tendencies and the effects it can have on creativity, but feel helpless upon trying to confront it as it manifests throughout a project. And there's still an elephant in the room. I can't play like I used to, and not for nearly as long. I now only have a small amount of time to work on my music. A large part of my creative rut stemmed from my injury, from the subsequent fatigue of the physical and creative muscle, the clouding of my feelings, and the questions of how to be creative within an unfamiliar set of boundaries. But a more imperceptible barrier developed in the form of dwindling hope, an inability to begin. That seemed to be the biggest hurdle, sitting down and starting a project. Stream of consciousness is a method I use to combat the creative block. The origins of stream of consciousness are from narrative writing. It's a style that aims to capture innermost character, thoughts and feelings, and this can be reframed as an activity for writing or composition. I assigned myself 2 primary tasks to carry out. Number 1, sit down with an instrument and record whatever comes out in voice notes or a DAW. And number 2, sit and write down the words or phrases I'm drawn to, words or phrases that reflect the content of a song's inspiration, or anything else that comes to mind. Where stream of consciousness excels in its literary origins, as a creative task it can seem quite daunting and doesn't really tackle the problem at its core if you're not in the right frame of mind. So to nudge the process, I embarked on a series of tasks to spur inspiration. This involved reading or listening to books, going on a writing retreat, which was just me taking a trip to Yorkshire. I practiced active and passive music listening, shuffling through artist reference playlists, genre-specific playlists, and ambient or instrumental playlists designed to transport my mind elsewhere. I made mind maps and analysed artists, their songs, their lyrics, and musical parts within the songs. And I also went to a concert. Getting everything up and pouring it out meant I started to engage more with creation, but I often found myself rambling, producing ideas with no anchor in the form of aimless, unclear voice notes that were a nightmare to sift through. That initial spark, the mystery that prompts creativity, was lost in obscurity. I found that my ideas lacked structure and lost their context. For some genres this was suitable, but fundamentally undesirable as something embedded within a framework. The technique worked better after preparing for the process. Simulating an environment to bring feelings or memories to the surface were effective, but the best results were caught in real time in the form of unplanned voice notes and journaling. Being prepared with instruments out of cases, set up in tune, having pen and paper around, these were all hugely beneficial to my workflow. The results formed a canvas ripe for further development. The music playing from the beginning of the video are all products of the stream of consciousness process, and it works best as a starter activity to get in the zone or as inspiration for broader ideas, but always with the caveat that you prepare for the process. This doesn't have to be something that you really plan for. Sometimes just looking after yourself means that you feel more prepared. The main pitfall of this method is that it inherently relies on patterns, on what already exists within your capabilities, and thus I found myself falling back on what I knew. However, the lucky moments, although sometimes few and far between, were like extracting gold dust. The stream of consciousness approach can allow you to reserve your judgment, reconcile with creative muscles, but most importantly, it permits an interaction with the deepest parts of yourself to form the basis of what can be a deeply emotive creative venture. And from this, I realised that starting the idea is half the battle, but finishing an idea, giving something purpose, is the key to leaving a creative rut. This brings us to method number 2, the homework theory. After feeling dejected by some of the failures from the previous method, I stumbled across a video by Venus Theory. The homework theory is a method inspired by many creators that highlights the importance of working within limitations and implementing restrictions to achieve a goal by a deadline. It can be seen in action more loosely without strict definition by artists like Nick Cave, who sees music as a 9 to 5. And at this point, I had several unfinished ideas. So I named them all, ranked them among their strongest. I then did some housekeeping and cleaning up of the DAW projects I created. And from there, I followed the method. I found that I didn't have to wait around until I stopped feeling uninspired. The inspiration was contained within voice notes, and for once, there was no existential problems of infinite possibility. Following the homework theory is a deliberate act, and I felt grateful for the stable foundation I was able to work from. This extended level of focus required did not come naturally to me, especially for songs with full instrumentation. After a few attempts, I had to change my workflow to get somewhere. I set up my environment, then I introduced a routine to follow before writing time. After making headway, I got stuck, but feedback from others, extra research, and revisiting the reference material got me back on track. And it didn't always happen as I planned. Sometimes the next section would come to me in the middle of a conversation, the middle of the night, anywhere. And sometimes I would sit for hours trying to complete a single section. Because putting time pressure on creativity is difficult. But to understand the cons of each technique is to also understand the pros. I still haven't found a way to be creative without it causing pain, but having a process I can follow has minimized noodling, creating hundreds of voice notes that end up nowhere, and from this project, I found my own way of continuing to follow my dreams.